Well, good morning, everybody. My name's Jean Colt as presiding member for the panel today, and with me is Nima Premji and Karen Hyde as specialist and deputy presiding member, and also Mayor Patrick Hall and Councillor Ben Coons from the City of Canning. Firstly, I'd like to declare the meeting open at whatever time it is, 9:37 a.m. And I acknowledge we're hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of Western Australia, pay respects to elders past and present, and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. The meeting today will be run in accordance with DAP Standing Orders 2024 under the Planning and Development Act. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the DAP website in accordance with Regulation 42A of the Act, or the regulations, and members are invited to or reminded to announce their name and title prior to speaking. During the meeting, panel members may refer to technical devices to assist them in considering the information before them. I have no apologies for the meeting today, and there are no members on leave of absence. And item 4 on the agenda advises that minutes of previous meetings are available on the DAP website. Moving on to part B of the agenda, I have first item is to confirm all members have duly considered all of the documentation contained within part B of the agenda and part B related information, including attachment 11 for item 3.1, which was distributed on the 2nd of October. So would panel members please signify that they are familiar with all that information? Councillors and Mayor, thank you. I invite members to declare any interest on any of the items. If not, there's a standing declaration on agenda items where they have been considered at council meetings, and local government members acknowledge that they have declared that they have participated in the council meeting. However, if there is none, then we'll move on to item 3, which was item 3.1, and that's the application for 28 dwellings, number 168 Wharf Street, Cannington. We do have a presentation for this item. It's Mr. Jeremy Hoffland from the Rowe Group. Jeremy, would you like to take the seat in front of the camera? And I remind you that we have nominally 3 minutes, but given the items are pretty much similar and you're the only presenter, I may be a bit lenient on that time.
Thank you very much, presiding member. Yes, my name is Jeremy Hoffland from Rowe Group. I'm speaking on behalf of the proponent. And I'm also attended here with Ivan Tenho from White House Architects. Ivan isn't making a formal presentation, but will be available to answer any questions that the panel members and others may have. The project team has reviewed the Responsible Authority report and the recommendation prepared by the city, and we are supportive of the content. Within my presentation request, I had requested a modification to the wording of condition 20 relating to public art. On that particular aspect, that was in relation to the wording which stated that it was prior to the submission of a building permit or other time as agreed to in writing by the city. On that particular point, the proponent intends incorporating public art within the development, but we still need to fine-tune those details, and we're concerned that the public art proposal, for that to be approved by the city, it needs to go through design review. That's likely to take several months, what we would expect. On that particular point, we have discussed that with the manager city planning, and he's agreed to public art being addressed prior to the completion of the development. There is sufficient wording within the condition to accommodate that. So we're satisfied with this, and we no longer request the rewording of the condition. With respect to the proposed development, it's designed specifically to enable independent living for persons with a severe disability. The overarching principle of specialist disability accommodation developments is to enable the residents to live as independently as possible. The subject site has been selected as it's in close proximity to services, facilities and public transport, which is connected via an effective pedestrian footpath network, enabling residents to access many of their needs via a motorised wheelchair without assistance. There's a significant unmet demand for this housing type across the Perth metro area and also within the locality. In terms of this proposal, it involves 2 separate apartment developments fronting Wharf Street and Halton Way respectively. Each development accommodates a maximum of 15 specialist disability accommodation apartments, as this is the maximum number of dwellings which can be accommodated under a lot under the NDIS regulations. In order to achieve compliance, approval has been obtained from the WPC to subdivide the property, with access and parking to be subject to an easement enabling public access across both lots for this purpose. This has been captured within condition 4 of the recommendation and has been discussed extensively with the city. The proponent has also liaised with the city's planning and engineering teams to satisfy requirements relating to plot ratio and building height under the Queen's Park Local Structure Plan, and also with respect to vehicle access and waste collection. I have our representative from the architectural firm if there are any questions relating to design, but certainly it has been considered by the city's design review panel, and we have responded to the specific concerns that were identified. On that basis, where we reiterate we are satisfied with the recommendation. Thank you for your opportunity to speak. If the panel has any questions, we're available to answer them.
Thank you, Jeremy. Panel members, do you have any questions of the presenters? Yes, Nima?
Just out of curiosity, why not amalgamate the lots?
Because under the NDIS regulations, you can't, you can't have more than 15 SDA dwellings on a single land parcel.
Oh,
Okay, thank you. Yes, so Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question from me, and it might be one best addressed by the City of Canning's officers. I'm just, my only concern was in relation to the number of parking bays allocated, particularly to the site of the first development in Wharf Street. I see that the normally we would have, I think it was 31 or 32. There will be only, I believe, 17 on site. We have a number of similar developments in the City of Canning, and my experience has been that we have an awful lot of visitors to those sites, and also specialist physiotherapists and people that support staff for people with severe disability. My question is, can you provide the panel with an overview of the expected number of visitors and staff on site at any one time? And is it the case that, do you really believe that the 17 bays for 28 residences will be sufficient?
Thank you, Matt. Yes, Jeremy, first instance, could you address that query, please?
Yes, I'm able to address that. Certainly, this is a topic which comes up with every application that we submit, and we completely understand the concern that local governments and others have. On that particular matter, there are currently 10 proposals either under construction or in operation at the moment. With respect to the specialist disability accommodation, these people have quite a severe disability and they don't drive, so they won't own their own vehicles and have a need for it. There may be a very rare occurrence where someone may have a vehicle which is capable of accommodating a wheelchair, a motorised wheelchair, but that is very unusual. In terms of the operation of the site itself, it's managed very tightly because these are very vulnerable people. The caretaker that's on site records and has to grant approval for anyone to enter and leave the site, or for any visitors to enter the site. So whether it's tradesmen or visitors or others, they are needing to seek approval, so they are able to manage very clearly how many vehicles are on site at any one time. There are 4 visitor parking bays. The other parking bays within the development are not necessarily allocated to a particular unit, but would be available potentially for further visitors or any other attendees. What would most likely be the use is that if there are any taxis that are accommodating disabled persons, they would be it would be a pick up and set down arrangement. So certainly we don't envisage that there would be any parking issues relating to the development. Certainly the management measures that are in place would ensure that there are no conflicts and there's not suddenly a rush of vehicles arriving at the site which causes them to spill into the street. Certainly we have had those discussions with the city, and that has resulted in the verge parking bays that are proposed within the site as well.
Jerry, I just had a follow-up question, if you would.
Yes, Mel.
I just wanted to follow up with that. Can you tell me, these people have high-level disability. Are you telling me that not every person in every one of those 28 units will have a carer with them every day?
No, they won't have a carer with them. They're able to live independently. And so the apartments are designed to allow for them to manoeuvre around within motorised wheelchairs or other devices. Certainly, if something should happen, say if they will have a remote alarm that they can activate, if they might fall out of the chair or if they drop the TV remote or something as innocuous as that, and the caretakers are on site 24/7 and they'll be available to deal with those things. So no, they wouldn't have a carer with them necessarily.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, just to follow up on the access, you said that the caretakers control access and egress to the site. Is it gated?
It's not gated.
Right.
No.
Okay.
But certainly, obviously the building is secure.
Yep.
And it can't just be that someone can just walk into the building without identifying themselves and being cleared to enter.
Okay, thank you. Karen, you had your hand up earlier on.
Yes, just a
Yes,
quick
Councillor
point of clarification, and it may have been my error in reading your earlier presentation notes, but I think you referred to condition 18 originally associated with this particular application. But I think you corrected that to condition 20, which is dealing with the public art, and now you're okay with that condition. Just wanted to check that you didn't have any concerns at all with condition 18, which is the acoustic stuff.
No, that's fine. Sorry, it's condition 20 within the Wall Street proposal. Within Tate Street, it's condition 18.
Yeah.
And I think it was just
a little bit of an admin thing. That's okay. I just wanted to check that you were cool with 18 and 20.
It's completely
Thank
fine.
you. Thanks for citing that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Coons.
Thank you, Chair. Just with respect to the comments on the parking shortfall and the intended management of the site, is there any potential, given that this building will be around for decades, that there would be any future different uses of the site that might cause issues with parking, given that once the footprint's in place, there'll be limited capacity to change that?
Yes, Jeremy.
I don't believe so. The site has certainly been specifically designed for specialist disability accommodation, and it's made available for rent, and it's certainly sold on that basis. I mean, whilst it could potentially change use in future, certainly car parking is something that would need to be factored in. But from the perspective of the proposal, we're not envisaging that use would change in the short to medium term. Certainly, there is a dramatic unmet demand for this, and that's why we're pressing on very quickly with the construction of the project, so we don't envisage that the use would change in future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any further questions of the presenters? If not, panel members, have any of you got questions of Austin Donaghy regarding this?
No, thank you.
No, yes, Mayor Hall, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question to our own staff, just in relation to the consultation piece. And I understand there's not a requirement under the Act to consult with neighbouring landholders, but I'm just wondering about whether or not that could have been conditioned here, considering the fact that this 4-storey development will be substantial in a residential area. There's nothing similar to it anywhere. It'll be one hell of a shock to adjoining landowners who at the moment probably or possibly are completely none the wiser that they are about to have a 4-storey large development put right beside their home. And I'm wondering, even though it's not required under the Act, whether or not that could have been conditioned. And I'm just wondering why it hadn't been.
Thank you for the question, Mayor Hall. With regards to the density itself has been in place for quite a while through the Queen's Park Local Structure Plan, which was first gazetted by the West Australian Planning Commission back in 2017. So the density has been in situ for over 7 years now, and the community would have been extensively consulted at the time the structure plan was originally endorsed. That structure plan was amended again in 2021, which would have went through consultation at that time with the community. The multiple dwelling use is a D use, which doesn't automatically trigger advertising. If the development did propose variations such as building height or lot boundary setbacks that would have had a potential impact on the amenity of the adjoining landowners, the city would have advertised the development to those affected landowners. However, the development itself is compliant in terms of building height and lot boundary setbacks, and with conditions that we've proposed with regards to visual privacy as well. It's compliant in that regard. So the city didn't feel the need to advertise to the adjoining landowners in terms of the build form, as it was considered compliant under the residential design codes and the Queen's Park local structure plan.
I appreciate all of that, Chair. It's just that sometimes it's worth bringing the community with us. They're not always against a development. I think people should be advised. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you. Any further questions of Austin at all? Okay, all right. Well, there being no further questions, we'll move into the item itself. And in order that the panel can consider the matter, I will require a mover and a seconder for the responsible authority recommendation. So do I have a mover? Mayor Hall. And a seconder? Yes, Nima. Thank you. Mayor Hall, you wish to speak to the item, please.
Thank you, Chair. I support the recommendation. I support the development. High need care for people with disability is critically in short supply, and we certainly need it and need it here at the City of Canning. It appears to be a quality build. I'm happy with the development and the planning of it. Councillor Kunzer and I have been right through, obviously, all of the information provided to us, notwithstanding the concerns, but I still maintain in relation to on-site parking. I'm satisfied given the response provided to me this morning and also from the city staff that those concerns have been mitigated. So I speak in support of the item and the development. Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. Nima, you wish to speak to the item, please.
Yes, thank you, Presiding Member. Yes, I also support the recommendation. It's a very good design, and you have addressed the concerns which was expressed by the design review panel very well. So thank you for that. And very much, this sort of development is very much needed in our community. And I congratulate the developers and the city for doing such a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the item? Councillor Kunze?
No.
Karen?
I'm very comfortable with the technical analysis for this and consider that this is an appropriate development within the railway frame and the density that's being proposed, and certainly aware of it being part of that structure planning process for some time. So I believe it's quite fitting. Agree with the Mayor that it's very much in demand. It has good interface with the street. A lot of the technical matters like drainage and waste management can be managed through conditions, but the design has been carefully resolved and matters such as privacy and deep soil have been resolved through that process and has general support from the design review panel. So I'm very comfortable with supporting this.
Thank you. I too am in support of the proposal. Conforms generally to the planning framework for the area. And whilst there's some discretion required under the Queen's Park Local Structure Plan in regard to waste management, compliance and stormwater management, these are all covered under the conditions that are proposed. Under the residential design codes, the proposal complies with landscaping. Overlooking conditions have been addressed with screening. In regard to the shortfall in parking, I'm satisfied with that, and the easements that's going to be provided will cover the management of it and the shared access and parking requirements. I presume also that easement documentation will apply somehow to the fire tanks and pumps, which I would imagine under the management statements will be covered as be a shared facility. In regard to noise, well, that's all been covered as far as conditions are concerned as well. So generally, a well-designed and much needed proposal. With that, I will ask Mayor Hall to close debate on the item if required.
Thank you, Chair. I support your comments and those of the other panel members. I've got nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you. And that being the case, I'll put the item to a vote. I think we need to address the condition number
20.
for this, so that with the mover and second, no, don't need to. That was just a typo, was it? Okay. Okay. All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. All in favour of the item, please. Okay, that's unanimous. Thanks very much. Then we will go on to the second item on the agenda, 3.2, which is the 17 multiple dwellings, Tate Street, Bentley, and we do have a presentation from Mr. Hoffland again. Jeremy, would you like to come forward and make your presentation, please?
Exciting member. In terms of the item for Tate Street, Bentley, a lot of the similar issues apply, so I'll try and keep it as brief as I can. Again, condition relating to public art, the feedback that we've had from the city is satisfactory, so we don't need that to change. In terms of the sites, the purpose and operation is very similar. And in terms of the matters, I mean, the site, we have had extensive discussions with the city again in relation to waste management, and so that's now been resolved. We've also, there are some minor variations relating to building height, which is largely due to the sloping nature of the site and the need to maintain sufficient access for persons with a disability. But we have discussions with the city's planning team and they are satisfied with those components as demonstrated in the recommendation. We've also again addressed the concerns and the matters raised by the city's design review panel. So again, we believe those aspects have been satisfied. I'm here with Sean Vanderpoel, who is from RAD Architecture, who is the architect involved in the project, and both of us are available to answer any questions which the panel may have.
Thank you, Jeremy. Panel members, any questions of the presenters? No? Okay, any questions of Mr. Donaghy from Council?
No, thank you, Chair.
Oh, thank you. In that case, I'll move on to the item and call for a mover and seconder. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Mover for the recommendation. Yes, Nima. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Quincy. Nima, you wish to speak to the item, please.
Thank you, presiding member. Just again, the design is very well executed, and I do understand there is a variation to the building height, but the reasons for that and the acceptance by the city engineers is well thought out, and I don't see a problem with that 700 millimetres or so forth. I think it can be in the overall design. And also, I would like to thank the developer for addressing all the design review panel's comments in their design work. and it is much needed in this particular community, NDIS accommodation. So I support the recommendation by the RA report.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Kunze.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Look, I speak briefly. I support the recommendation. I think the built form and design looks great, and it will reflect very well on that part of the City of Canning. Again, as was previously spoken about, it fits a need that's well in demand, and I commend the proponent for seeking to fit that need. I also note that any issues, it was with respect to community consultation, adjacent landowners had an opportunity and no submissions were provided. So I think it's great and I support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Kunze. Any other panel members wish to speak? No?
No, I just concur with the mover and the seconder. Thank you, presiding member.
Thank you. And I too concur with the mover and seconder, and it was good to see that the proponents addressed the design review panel's recommended amendments to their design, which they've done, and any variations that were sought under the R codes have been appropriately assessed and addressed by the proponents as well. So support the proposal. That being the case, Nima, you wish to close debate on the item, please.
Nothing further to say.
Nothing further. In that case, I'll put the item to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much, panel members. Moving on to Part D, under other business, SAT application of Supreme Court appeals. They're noted on the agenda. Under general business, if there is none, then
No, I have an item.
Oh, sorry, Mayor Hall.
Chair, I'd like to bring up an issue that's been raised recently in local government, and particularly here at the City of Canning, and I hope you might give me a moment just to explain the situation. The local government has been somewhat blindsided by the new Code of Conduct regulations that were assented to in, I think, April this year, and I wondered whether you had had the opportunity to familiarise yourself with the Code of Conduct for DAPs. Section 2.45 of that has presented a issue for local government. Councillor Kunze and I are both DAP members, but we're not expert planning personnel. We have no background in planning matters other than the very basic induction we did to become members of this DAP, and there has always been a significant advantage to us just to have a chat over a coffee with our officers to talk about any items that we are struggling to understand, and we generally do that in the lead up to a DAP meeting. We received a very terse email from the Executive Director of the Department of Planning and Heritage 2 weeks ago, which actually advised us that if we continue to do so, it would be a breach of the Code of Conduct, and we don't know what the ramifications are of that, but if you're not aware, the Code of Conduct prevents any DAP member from speaking to any other DAP member about any item that is about to come before a meeting. In fact, Councillor Kunze and I, this is the first time we've even discussed these items today, even though we represent our community. And as I came into the room this morning, I almost said to Councillor Kunze, "Are you happy with the parking on the Wharf Street development?" And that would have clearly been a breach of the Code of Conduct just to even do something quite as innocent as that. Section 2.45 Part B says that those briefings, those meetings are able to occur with the consent of the presiding chair. And obviously that would mean that in the lead up to a meeting, at the agenda meeting, we would declare a conflict or declare an interest that we had, discussed the item. But I'm wondering whether, first of all, you knew about it, or whether other members knew about it, and whether or not we can get some sort of agreement to allow us to at least discuss these agenda items as two lay members of the panel in the lead up to these things. I'd rather ask silly questions behind closed doors than to do it here.
Thanks for that. I was aware of the item or the matter, and but I haven't gone into it in any detail with anyone, but I'm just wondering whether the standing declaration of interest, if agenda items have been considered at a council meeting, can override that. In other words, of course, not all of the items that come to us have been through a council meeting, but if it has been, and the council is making a recommendation to the panel of its views, it may be of support or whatever, then in your normal course of work or, participation at council, you are entitled to have briefings and discussions amongst yourselves as councillors. So that's one avenue, I suppose, you could look at. But I will raise the matter with the Executive Director of Planning or DAPS and see if there is some interpretation that will allow, in particular, some discussion. But I don't have a ruling on that as yet, but I was aware of the item, yes.
I appreciate that. You're right. Councils have two different functions. First of all, we have a formal ordinary council meeting, which is a formal meeting of council. And of course, we can discuss a matter there, and there's no issue with that. But councils also hold full council meetings at other times. We call them a strategic issues briefing to talk about something that may be coming up. And often they are about matters that may at some point find their way before a DAP. Well, obviously, the council comprises of not only these two DAP members, but the two deputies. So 4 members of our 11-member council are actually DAP members. It would be a clear breach of the code of conduct for us to discuss in a strategic briefing, which is not a formal briefing of meeting of council, any matter that is either coming before or proposed to come before a DAP. It's presenting an extraordinary difficulty for lay members of these development assessment panels from elected members. A real issue, and I think either there's been a misinterpretation of the code, misapplication of the code, or no one foresaw the inadvertent consequences. But it's presenting a real issue. I very much appreciate you raising it.
Okay, well, it may well be also that the term under the 2.4.9, where you say that you've declared that you participated in a council meeting, that may not be a formal council meeting. I'll seek to get a ruling on that. However, under section 212, you acknowledge that you're not bound by any previous decision or resolution of the local government, and that you're going to undertake, exercise independent judgment on the day. So there's probably a bit of a grey area in regard to that participation in council meetings, whether it's a formal council meeting or not, or whether it's an informal meeting amongst councillors. So, but 212 does acknowledge you're not bound by any previous decision. So I'd like to get a bit of a ruling on 245 and find out what that entails, and I will then get the Executive Director of DAPS or the Director of the department to respond to you.
Very appreciative. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mayor Hall. Any other general business?
No.
If not, then I'll close the meeting at 10:10 a.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.